Okay, so we're gonna do a Nux React. This VTuber avatar of Nux or Nuxtaku. He has the Nuxtaku channel and the Nuxanor channel. And this is reacting to every heretical Christian cult WTF question mark, question mark, question mark. And that is actually this video here by Redeem Zoomer. So yes, 3 layers, 2 levels of React in this video, and the links to both of these, the Nux one and the Redeemed Zoomer one, will be in the description. So, what I'm going to do here is I'm actually probably going to be pausing an awful lot because Nux, and let's go back to the beginning of his video, I have watched all of this one here, and so I am a Christian, but this video is not me preaching to you. I believe that you can receive much more high quality preaching from your church, or if you don't belong to a church, some church nearby, than from this video. So yes, this is not me preaching to you. This is me basically explaining my Christian beliefs, some of which are extremely standard and normal, and some of which are kind of weird and hard to explain. So I've got some of both in there. And so anyways, if you made a list of the 10 or so Protestant denominations that are the biggest and most popular, then there would be like 2 of them that were the main denominations of my childhood. And also the denomination that I am right now, that would also be, you know, in the top 10 or so normal denominations. So, you know, Catholic and Orthodox are not Protestant, they're separate. And in fact, a lot of the Protestants that I grew up around, as well as the ones now, kind of consider Catholics to be their own thing and a little bit suspicious. And especially when I was a kid, a lot of the old people would whisper about, oh, the Catholics aren't real Christians because, you know, they worship false gods, you know, by which they mean intercession by the saints, or they worship idols, idolatry, which, you know, which they mean icons. So every Christian denomination has its own set of rules, and some of them consider the others to not be real Christians. And the Catholic Protestant divide is one of the big ones there. The Catholic Orthodox divide is another big one. And then among the different Protestant ones, there's a whole bunch of different divides. And and so there were 2 mainstream big Protestant denominations in my childhood. And then there was another one that was small and weird, definitely not one of the top 10. And if you know about my channel, you know that Penny Bloomfield is a pseudonym, and also not just a pseudonym, but there'll be a lot of other fake names, and places will be changed and so on. Because I am heavily anonymizing my channel, but Penny Bloomfield is 95% the same as me. So Penny Bloomfield is a fictional character, but one that is heavily based on me. Basically, anything I tell you, the names, the places, the dates, will almost certainly be switched around, but the details of it will be 95% accurate. And I'll change a few little details here and there, not things that really matter, just to help anonymize better. So, of the two big denominations and the one little one from my childhood, I'm not going to tell you which ones they are, but the little bitty one, that especially would be, you know, if I told you what it was, that would be like doxing myself pretty much, because there aren't a huge number of the different places where you can find the churches, and, you know, there weren't very many relatives in that one. Most of my relatives when I was a kid were in, you know, major denominations, not necessarily the two major ones my parents were in, but other major ones. There were just a few relatives that were in the little bitty weird Protestant denomination, and it was quite a drive. It was quite a long ways away, so we didn't go there very much. But it did have a significant amount of effect on my life regardless. So, so I definitely considered myself to be one of those two main ones, but I also got a lot of influence from the little bitty weird one. And since it's going to be pretty annoying if I keep calling it the little bitty weird one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call it the Hillbilly Faith Healing Church. So that's a pretty good name for it, and I'm going to switch around the details on it a little bit, but not too much, just to try to hide its identity. And so anyways, that's my little introduction, and I'll be explaining sort of where I'm coming from with these various ideas, and then Nux here, he is a Jew, so he's coming at it from an outsider perspective, but a monotheistic perspective that believes in God. So not a total outsider to Christianity, because, you know, Jews, they believe in God and is the same God. So, you know, they're definitely Christian adjacent. So let's go and listen to Nux. Here we go.
Gentlemen, female gentlemen, people told me to do this. Here we are. Redeemed Zoomer made a video. Every heretical Christian cult explained in 8 minutes. I don't know. People tell me it's like Jehovah's Witness stuff. I honestly don't know. All right, we're doing Christian lore today. I'll be completely honest with you. This is a lore dive for me. This is a lore dive for me, and we'll see what it's all about. Lock in, everybody. We do Islam lore. We do Christian lore. Suspiciously, one is a little less murdery than the other, but we're not going to, you know, we're not going to pick on anybody here. All right, with this lore channel on Nuxtaku, where every day we do new lore. Let's see what we got.
Can you be Christian and believe God is actually a woman in South Korea, or that the Garden of Eden is really in Missouri, or that...
I mean, I personally don't think so, personally.
God is just...
But I'm not Christian, so it's not like my place.
Metaphor for...
I'm just learning. I'm in my Christian leering center. All right, I'm leering one day at a time.
Some love.
Leering
there are some
center.
Groups that teach this, which raises the question. Me. What does Christian even mean? Who counts as...
Yeah, that's a Nick Shirley, Minnesota reference, you know, in case you're watching this years later or something and don't know. The Leering Center in Minnesota that Nick Shirley was filming in his documentary. Okay, let's keep going.
Christian. It means anyone who identifies as a Christian, man.
Get out of here! What is this? What is this? Oh my god.
You can't just gatekeep...
Can we blast this guy with a laser?
Religion.
Oh my
well,
god.
If Christian can mean anything, then it means nothing.
True,
so it has
facts.
to mean something.
Yeah, so I think as far as Christian, it's not just anyone who calls themselves a Christian. So you need to have an organization, a church, that has some sort of reality and establishment to it, typically going back many years, but and connected to a larger organization that recognizes you as a Christian. So if any, you know, atheist woke up one day and said, I'm a Christian, but I believe blah, 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 and it was just completely ridiculous stuff about the spaghetti monster, that would not make that person a Christian no matter how much they said it. They don't have a church. I mean, there is a church of the spaghetti monster, but it's not a Christian church, and also it's not serious. It's a joke. So, let's keep going. Yeah, Christian is not just I identify as a Christian, therefore I am one. There's some sort of history, there's seriousness to it, and there's an organization of people who are also serious about it. Okay, let's keep going.
There has to be some
Bro really tried to hit you with what is a woman.
boundary between true and false Christianity. Historically, that boundary has been the creeds of the early church.
Yeah, so that was a Matt Walsh "What is a Woman" reference. Okay, let's keep going.
Which teach things like the Trinity, the resurrection, and basic ideas about the church. All the mainstream Christian denominations believe these creeds, but there are some fringe groups that not only reject the belief...
Ooh, Mormon.
Okay, so these guys here, and now these are, they're sort of like side things to Christianity, and I believe that at the very least most of them are Christian, but they're smaller and they're kind of, although Mormon is pretty huge, but they're kind of looked at aside by the others. Now, I've had friends in, let's see, Mormon, Jehovah's Witness, Scientology, Unification Church, and Christian Science, yes. And some of those friends I've had respect for and I've gotten along with a lot. And Mormons, I've got one friend who is an ex-Mormon, and she's really tried to convince me that Mormonism is definitely a cult, and she told me a whole bunch of things about it that sound just awful. And I think she was really treated wrongly. But there are people that are Mormons that I really respect. I don't think that they're not Christians. They are Christians. And some of them I really respect, like Nick Shirley is a Mormon. And then I'm going to show you, I brought up this channel here. So this is Cinema Therapy. A really great channel. It's got these two guys here, and they came out eventually. They are both Mormons. So, and they have a lot of really wonderful analysis of movies and such that are just amazing analysis from a Christian perspective, but subtle. It's more about the ethics than about the Christianity itself. They kind of try to keep it more secular, but you can tell that they're really ethical people who really think about ethics a lot. So this is a good channel. So there's a lot of Mormons that I have respected, and and then I remember Christian Science. Yeah, I've known a lot of them, and those are the people that they don't want to go to the doctor for any reason. Or actually, I think there's at least 5 denominations I can think of that don't want to go to the doctor for any reason. And in fact, some people in the Hillbilly Faith Healing Church were like that too, although it was not a Christian Science church. They were like, if you go to the doctor for any reason, you are not a real Christian at all. So I can tell you a few weird stories about that, but let's keep going.
Jehovah's Witness, Scientology, bro, Scientology.
Of the creeds, but think that Christians have been deceived for centuries by believing them. So these groups are considered heretical by the standards of historic Christianity. Let's start with the Mormons, or as they call themselves, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but we're not saying that every time. They're by far the biggest of these groups, and have the most interesting...
That's interesting, because I've heard multiple people say that Mormons are Christians, and I've heard multiple people say that Mormons are not Christians, which I always found funny. I don't know. So this is pretty cool.
Architecture, even though...
Yeah, I think that... so they're definitely Protestant, not Catholic or Orthodox. So they are a Protestant denomination, but I think they're like they're further away from like the mainstream Protestant than any other denomination that is this big. And so people have their doubts about it. I've talked to a lot of Christians about this, including my ex-Mormon friend. I've got at least one friend that still is a Mormon. I'm trying to think. I've got a few relatives that are Mormon, hardly any though. I've got a huge family, and like my biological mom's side of the family reunions around 400 or 500 people, and that was in the 80s. My biological father, same thing. Family reunions around 400 or 500 people on his side, and that was also in the 1980s. I don't know how much bigger they've gotten by now. Of course, a bunch of the old people have died off, but there have been new generations coming up, and they don't have as many babies, but you know, they're still increasing, I'm sure. It would take forever to count it all up. And that's not even counting the step families. I mean, my step siblings, oh my God, so many of them. There's more than 15 of them, and brought in by my stepfather and my stepmothers. And no, my biological father did not have more than one wife at a time. He had one at a time, divorced him, and then brought in another one. So that's the kind of stuff that was going on. But of these many hundreds of biological relatives that I have, only a tiny handful were Mormons. And the other relatives did have some criticisms about the Mormons, so I don't know, maybe 10 Mormons. I can't quite remember. Okay, let's go.
Their temples look more like sorcerers' towers than churches, but they
Bro, you're just a hater.
Look at how
These temples
awesome
are
this
awesome
one
looking.
looks.
were
Yeah.
started in America in 1830 by this guy Joseph Smith. They began in
Oh, getting South Park flashbacks. No.
Yeah.
but the Yankees kicked them out, so they made their way to Utah.
Yeah, the South Park Mormon episode is very amusing. Sort of like South Park dumps on everyone, and that includes every religion. And they even dump on agnostics and atheists. They like no one is spared. Everyone gets made fun of. But yeah, the Mormon episode makes Mormons look very silly. Yes, very silly.
Utah, which is where they mostly are to this day. America's very important to Mormons. They think the Garden of Eden was in modern-day Missouri. They think one
Wait, how could you
of the
possibly...
lost tribe.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be controversial here or anything, but how could you possibly think this, bro? Like, how could you possibly think that when, like, literally, quite literally, you know, God promised the Holy Land to Abraham and his descendants, and...
Yeah, well, if you go down here into the comments, there's, like, Mormons trying to explain it. There's a lot of stuff in here, but, oh, I can't find it now. Where is it? But, yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of, like, if you ask Mormons about the stuff that sounds like it would be really hard to explain, they've got some reasoning that when they, you know, it's like paragraphs and paragraphs of reasoning, and by the time they go through all of it, it's like, oh, well, it doesn't sound quite so unreasonable now. So yeah, I do not believe the Garden of Eden is in Missouri or anywhere in the New World. But I can see how Mormons who believe it might not be totally psychotic in believing it. Okay, so let's go forward.
It was very, very specifically not in Missouri.
Tribes of Israel made their way to the Americas and became the Native Americans.
And then they were all killed? And then no one died. Wait, the native tribes of Israel went to the Americas and became the Native Americans, and then the Christians came and killed?
Oh, there's a bunch of like Mormon animated cartoons from years ago that have, you know, all the Israelites are Native Americans and stuff like that that maybe Nux should react to at some point. I think that would be a good reaction for him.
What are we talking about, bro? The miracle was promised to the Jews 3,000 years ago. You see that's what I'm talking about.
They believe Jesus appeared to the Americans after his ascension, and they believe the angel Moroni left invisible golden tablets in upstate New York,
right, I heard
which
about
Joseph Smith found and transcribed into the Book of Mormon.
So what I heard, I don't know if this is true. Again, I'm not hating on Mormonism or anything. I need to do a deep dive on Mormonism, I feel like. I know that Oompaville just did a video on that. We need to do on that. But one thing that I find wild is the fact that he finds the golden tablets, he transcribes the golden tablets, and then the angel comes and takes back the golden tablets away. And then he's just left with his transcription, and he's the only witness.
Oh yeah, and it's not just like Mormons in general. They're one of those Christian denominations. They have a lot of like angel appearance stories that are supposedly true, and they're not the only denomination that has that. But you know, even into modern times, like if your car breaks down on the road, there's at least a tiny chance that like an angel might come and fix your car tire and stuff like that. But yeah, my ex-Mormon friend was talking about how Mormons would pass around stories like that were supposedly true, and they'd be like, oh, well, someone in this state saw an angel like a couple months ago, and this is what happened, and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, like a lot of angel stories. And let's keep and I should tell you, I think I mentioned in one of my other videos that actually the main place where I was in my childhood had a lot of belief in fairies. So definitely wasn't a majority belief. I'd say well less than 10% of the people, but there was a lot of belief in fairies. And that was not a religious belief. So it wasn't a hillbilly faith healing thing. And it wasn't associated with any other particular religion. And the various Christian churches that knew about it, they weren't like super against it. They were just sort of like, yeah, that's not true, and you guys are silly for thinking that. But yeah, I would try to see fairies, and I would try to find people that had talked to people that saw fairies, and I would try to talk to people that said they'd seen fairies directly. And it was really interesting, but very frustrating, because basically didn't find anything is mostly how it went. And but yeah, there was, and I'm gonna switch around a few of the details here, because so people that did tell me directly, I'm not gonna tell those stories to you, because if I did, and that person ever saw this YouTube video or others where I mentioned the same story, they'd know exactly who I was, because you know, how many people are telling this exact story. So I'm going to switch around a bunch of details, and of course some of these things were told to me in confidence. It's like I'll only tell you if you don't tell anyone else about the fairies that I saw. So so some of them were like that too. So I tried to talk to people that had seen fairies, but I think the general consensus is that fairies are something different than angels, and like half the people thought that fairies might be demons or ghosts. And so the people that thought they might be demons were, of course, very against them. They're like, you don't even try to see those things. Don't go near them. And then there was one woman that I remember that she was really convinced that fairies were aliens. She's like, fairies are real, but they're science, and they're aliens in fairy costumes. They're just trying to fool us that they're fairies. They are aliens. And so there was a whole bunch of stuff there. But yeah, the fairy stuff, that you know, the belief was common, you know, common in the sense that, you know, if you were looking for it, you'd come across it sometimes. And there was, you know, there was a local story that you know, it wasn't very known, and the guy that, you know, said he'd seen the fairies, he was really made fun of so badly. I could not get the story out of him at all, because by the time I got to him, he would not talk to anyone. He's just like, yeah, I'm sticking to my story. I saw what I saw, but I'm not going to talk about it anymore. No one gets to talk to me. He was so made fun of. But anyway, so that the Mormon angel stuff made me think about the fairy stuff. So let's keep going.
Mormons see the Book of Mormon as another testament of Holy Scripture in addition to the Old and New Testaments of the Bible. And they have some other Holy Scriptures as well.
How on earth does it fit, though?
Well, but the things in...
Like, quite literally, the Holy Land is not Utah. Like, you know.
These Mormon scriptures contradict...
Well, they just add more stuff on. Like, you can take a bunch of stuff and just add more. You know, you can do that with just about anything, as you can add more.
Historic Christianity. For example, Mormons believe God was once a man like we are, and we can become gods like God is.
Is that true? Chat, is that true? Any Mormons in chat? Is that true? Yes? Are you serious?
Well, my ex-Mormon friend explained it kind of like that, but more complicated. So yes, but with, you know, an asterisk and like it's super complicated. Okay, so let's keep going.
Yes? I didn't know that.
But Christians believe that God has always existed and never changes. Christians also believe in the Trinity.
Yeah, because it's a verse in the Bible. It literally says in the Bible, I am eternal and I do not change. Like, that is a verse in the Bible, dog.
Where the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are all one being. They're all the same God and are only different in their relations to each other. The Mormons believe that they are three different beings, meaning they believe in...
Isn't that polytheism? I'm sorry, I don't mean to be rude. Maybe I'm getting a biased view of Mormonism. Really not trying...
Yeah, I think all of the Protestant denominations that I've been in basically believe in the Trinity, although the way they explain it does vary a little bit. And so basically Jesus and God and the Holy Spirit are all considered the same, but there is a little bit of division, but it's more like the division is a human perception. It's not the reality. Sort of like... it's sort of like looking in a mirror instead of looking directly. So it's complicated, and I think I have heard about the Mormons being like they're totally separate. But once again, like a lot of Mormon beliefs, I think it's like really convoluted, if I remember right. Mormonism is a whole thing. Let's skip past it. Let's go to Jehovah's Witness. Yeah, they more extreme and culty than Mormons. Yeah, they really controlling the women. I've known some of those. Really want the women to cover up to an extreme extent, and to not think about anything to an extreme extent. It's but yeah, but I do believe they're Christian, and some of them are a little bit less hardcore, but yeah, and they come to your door a lot and try to do their stuff. Okay, let's go.
Reject the Trinity and think Jesus was just an angel, not God, which is why they're heretical according to historic Christianity. They don't believe in hell either, and they think only 144,000 people will make it to heaven.
What? So why is God making all these other people? Just to suffer forever? But there's no hell, so what do you mean? Whoa! Dude, I feel like Dude, we are here, the Christianity Leering Center is pretty diabolical.
They have their own special translation of the Bible, probably because the regular Bible isn't so friendly to their beliefs. They're considered a cult because of this thing they do called shunning, where if you leave their religion, they get your friends and family to stop talking to you.
Damn!
The Spiritualists were founded
That sounds like Scientology.
in 18...
Yep. Now, these guys, actually, I've known a lot of them. And I've gone to some of the churches because the hillbilly faith healing church, that, you know, it was quite small, but, you know, I've lived a bunch of different places, and I've usually been able to live in a place where there was one within driving distance. And that church was friendly with the Spiritualists. So, so one of the things about faith healing and about the hillbilly faith healing church is that, so in the New Testament, there's a part where they talk about how as proof that Jesus is risen and Christianity is real, the Holy Spirit is poured out on all Christians, and because of that, all Christians have basically powers, you know, but they might be, you know, the snake handling, the poison, the prophecy, the faith healing, the speaking in tongues, and stuff like that. And so the hillbilly Christian church, the hillbilly faith healing church, it's kind of like they believe, you know, they put more of an emphasis on faith healing than any of the others, and they're perceived as they're your power that God has given to you, but also that they're not actually your power, they're God's power. So God and Jesus are working through you to heal people or whatever. And there's not enough faith healers that appear to have real powers. And they would let people like Spiritualist come in and do faith healing, and sometimes some of their other stuff. So that's one of the reasons why I felt like the hillbilly faith healing church is not a cult, because they didn't care if people left. They're like, well, if you don't want to be here, you don't have to be here. And that's one of the things that cults are like, is they're like, no, you must stay here and we must be very controlling. And they were also kind of like, you know, as long as you have the abilities and you're definitely believe in God and not in, you know, false gods, then you're kind of one of us. You know, you're a Christian. Your provenance as a Christian has been proven by you being given this faith healing power or whatever. And so I'll tell you, but yeah, there's but I can tell you that there's a lot of people that so what you were supposed to do, and you got to remember that we mostly went to the mainstream Protestant denominations. We didn't go there very much. And my parents, I don't think we were even on the list of members, but my parents, if anyone asked them, what denomination are you, the two main ones, they'd say one of those. There was one in particular, they'd be like, well, we're this one, and then sometimes they'd mention the second mainstream one, and they wouldn't mention Hillbilly Faith Healing Church, almost never. They might be like, oh yeah, we go there sometimes, but we're not members. And so the belief was mainly these mainstream Protestant denominations. But we did have a lot of this stuff, and there would be faith healers that would travel So there was this one guy, he was really influential to me, and so he traveled about 5 states. He was really well known, and I'm going to change a few of the details here just to try to hide his identity a bit. But he was really well known for healing a particular disease. So we'll call it cancer. Okay, we'll say he was good at healing cancer, and there were a lot of people that said, yeah, he'd put his hands on, he would pray, he would ask for Jesus to heal, and then they would be free of cancer. It would not necessarily be immediately, but it would take a few months or whatever. So there were a lot of people that would say that had happened to them. And so this guy, he would come sometimes to the Hillbilly Faith Healing Church. And he was one of the most highly regarded healers because, of course, mostly when you're asked to do this stuff, like, I have done, the faith healing on people. And it's nothing much really happens. But I've also had faith healing done on me, and I haven't had. I've got multiple disabilities, multiple health problems, and I haven't had any of them healed by faith healing. So that I was always hoping that maybe someday I would, but it never happened. And but people put their hands on you, they heal you, and they say, that it's not their power, it's God's power or it's Jesus's power that comes in. They pray for you to be healed, and some of them have various things they do. The faith healers, they have arguments with each other. Some of them will put like crystals, like quartz crystals on you. Some of them have like holy water or anointing oil. Some of them might have a cross. And some of them are like, no, you don't use anything. Or some of them might use chalk to draw like a cross on you. And some of them say, oh no, you don't use anything because it's God's power anyways. You don't need holy water or anything like that. So there's a lot of different things they do. But anyways, this one healer that was really influential on me, I'll call him Jim Bob. So Jim Bob supposedly was really good at healing a disease, we'll call it cancer. And and he couldn't always heal it, but he apparently had a lot of people that he'd healed. And one of the things he said is that like some of the healers charged money for their healing because they're like, well, we're good at it. We travel a long distance, and we might spend many hours healing, so we need some compensation. We need to charge for it. And this guy that I'll call Jim Bob, he was against that. He was one of the thought of the philosophy that you never charge for faith healing or for any other spiritual thing because of a bunch of reasons, including that it's not your power, it's God's power. And he also had a bunch of other stuff to say. Like he was really open to other religions, not just other Christian religions, but he particularly Buddhism and Wicca. He said, those people are wrong. They're wrong because they don't believe the right things about God and Jesus. But just because they're wrong about the main things, it doesn't mean that they're wrong about everything. And he said that Wiccans in particular were preserving a lot of traditions that he didn't see anyone else preserving. And he did want them to become Christian, but he wasn't like as against them as most of the Christians I knew. And that's one of the reasons his influence was why I actually had a lot of Wiccan friends for a while in, let's see, late 90s and early aughts. And I don't have any now. My husband has a few Wiccan friends. I don't have any. I eventually got tired of them because of a bunch of different reasons. And also there's a lot fewer of them now. But, you know, they'd talk about how they were so persecuted, and they'd talk about historical stuff that, you know, just actually did not happen, and you can prove it. You know, there's a lot of YouTubers who've done deep dives on this. And they'd also have this thing where, let's see if I can remember, as if you harm none, do what you will. It's some kind of old Englishy saying, and which basically meant that as long as they thought that they were doing a good thing, that they were doing a good thing. And in practice, it just turned into degeneracy, because you don't reinvent the wheel. You know, there are ethical systems, but especially, you know, the Christian religion, that have figured out what is a good thing and what is a bad thing. And maybe they're not 100% accurate, but they at least have a pretty good framework. And but if you're a Wiccan and you're trying to reinvent the wheel and build your own ethical framework from scratch, and the only judge of whether something's ethical or not is whether you yourself think it's ethical, that causes people to go into self-delusion. So I saw a lot of degeneracy, and I got really tired of it, and I don't have any Wiccan friends anymore. But Jim Bob was the one that influenced me to be willing to have Wiccan friends, and to be like, okay, you guys are wrong about the main things, but maybe you're right about some of the details, and you're not necessarily bad people. So that's the attitude that I had there. And but yeah, I in the Hillbilly Faith Healing Church, they really wanted you to have a power. And of course there were some exceptions, like, you know, children weren't expected to necessarily have powers, but they wanted you to try to test your powers, try to see if you could do prophecy, or if you could speak in tongues, or if you could do stuff like that. Once you were an adult or getting close to it, they wanted you to test those things, because they believed that if you were a real Christian, God would give you something. And like the prophecy stuff, and about half the people called it being psychic. It's just that you ask for a prophecy, you pray for a prophecy, and then you wait, and like the first thought that pops into your head is the prophecy, supposedly. But I'm not very good at it, and the first thought that popped in my head was usually not something that turned out to be a true prediction of the future. So yeah, I'm not very good at it. Now, there were some people in the Hillbilly Faith Healing Church that were good at it, or at least they were good at it according to others. And some of them said that they were 100% correct, but they were not. I gotta tell you, they were not. And there was this one woman, and I'm gonna switch around a few details here just to protect her identity. So there was this one woman. We'll call her we'll call her Joan. So Joan was had a reputation that she could predict the future, and her prophecies came from God. And she was a Christian, and she believed all this stuff, and she was like, I definitely get the prophecies from God, and since they're from God, there's no way that they can be wrong at all in any detail. And they were wrong in some details, but, you know, they were right a lot of the time, like way, way more than you'd think from chance or any other explanation that you could think of. And so I was like, well, I think she might have the power. I think she might have it. But then something happened. And so this woman, she failed to predict her own death. She failed. And there was a bad flood, and they were her place. It was going to be flooded, and church members were calling her on the phone, and they were saying that there's an evacuation order. You got to get out. You got to get out. You got to get out. And she said, no. I've received a prophecy. I've prayed about it. I've received the prophecy. I'm going to be fine. And I need to stay here. And the flood came. And she lost her life. She lost her life. And I didn't know what to think about it afterwards. Of course, really sad, but I was also like, well, I believed that she had the power, and I thought, you know, she wasn't as accurate as she thought she was, but I believed she had the power. But now she's gone, and I've often wondered in the years since then, was that God telling me that I shouldn't believe that someone has a prophecy power? I don't know. But then there were people in the church that said, well, her prophecy was right because she was all right, you know? She went to heaven, and that's the best outcome you can expect. So, I don't know. But yeah, it was really like that. And another thing happened, gotta tell you, the faith healer, the one that he'd travel like about 5 states, and wouldn't see him very often, but I'd have the conversations with him, and he was really influential on me. And he talked about faith healing. He said that he had made a mistake with the faith healing when he was younger. He'd made a mistake with it. He said that when he was younger, that sometimes when he was laying his hands on people and he was praying that Jesus would cure the cancer, and he'd feel like it wasn't going to work, because sometimes it didn't work, and he would feel like it wasn't going to work. And then he would say, Jesus and God, if you are not willing to cure this person's cancer, he would say, please let me take the burden. Please let me take it. And that's the story he told me. He said he would say that, and he did get cancer. He got it. And he said that after he got it, he thought he could use his power to cure his own cancer. He thought he could bring in other people's cancer into his body, and then he could cure it. He believed this. And he was never able to cure his own cancer. No matter how much he prayed, no matter how much he laid on hands on himself, Jim Bob could not cure his own cancer. And there were people that said, if he's a cancer curer, and he can't cure his own cancer, then he doesn't have real power. It doesn't matter how many people come forward and witness and says, yes, Jim Bob cured my cancer. It means that he doesn't have the power, and God has proven it by giving him cancer. But he told me, he said, I made a mistake, and if you do the faith healing, like you know, you are doing some of it, and I haven't done very much of it. I've done a little bit of it, but I don't think it works. I don't think it works, and I don't think I have the power, or if I do, it's so tiny that God doesn't work that way through me. But he's like, one thing you must never do is take the disease into yourself. Never ask for God to do that to you, because you might have it and not be able to get rid of it. And Jim Bob, he passed away. He passed away. He did pass away from that cancer, and I still miss him. I still miss him. And I think there's a possibility that maybe he didn't have the power to cure cancer, but he probably did. He probably did, but you know, or God did working through him. But at the very end, he couldn't cure his own cancer. So yeah, I have a lot of those memories from the Hillbilly Faith Healing Church. Okay, so let's keep going.
1800s America, just like Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses. Noticing a pattern? It's pretty clear why they're not historically Christian. They believe in communicating with dead spirits, and the Bible...
Yep, that goes directly against the Bible. Yep, Leviticus says that you kill someone that speaks to dead spirits. Yep, sorry, nope.
Yeah, so, like I said, the Hillbilly Faith Healing Church did have back and forth with Spiritualists, and I have gone to Spiritualist churches. It's not the denomination that I am now. I'm in a mainstream denomination. But I've known a lot of Spiritualists. And the Bible is very explicit about... now, how they'd explain it is a lot of them would say that, yes, the Bible forbids summoning dead spirits, but they'd say we're not summoning dead spirits, the ghosts are already here and we're just talking with them. So that's what some of them would say to get around that. But yeah, I think the Bible is very explicit about you do not summon the dead. And some of them said, well, you know, the dead are hanging around, and I'm not summoning them. You know, God has given me, and Spiritualists, this video doesn't get into it, but almost all of them that I've known say, yeah, I'm Christian. I believe in Jesus. I believe in God. And I don't believe in those other gods of false religions. So, but there's like 3 different divisions of Spiritualists, and like 2 of the divisions are Christian, or at least describe themselves that way, and like the 3rd one is not. So I don't know as much about the 3rd one that's not. But yeah, so the Spiritualists that I knew, they would try to justify the dead spirit stuff by saying, I don't summon them, I just talk to the ones that are already here. And the other justification that I heard was, I'm not speaking with the ghosts, I'm speaking with angels who are passing messages from the dead who are in heaven. And so that's the other explanation that was given. And I'm not sure if I agree with either of those explanations. And I have been to a few of the seances, but the only ones I've been to, they didn't pass along messages from anyone who was supposed to be dead. They just passed along messages from angels. So they'd say everyone has a guardian angel, and or possibly more than one, and you ask us a question, and then we will tell you what your guardian angel says, and your guardian angel is just passing a message along from God. So I did ask a few questions, and mostly along the line of, oh, well, I have this job now, and I'm looking at this other job, and I think I might have this other job. Do you think it'd be a good idea for me to switch jobs from this job to this other job? And then they'd be like, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. So the questions I asked were pretty simple, and the answers I got were very generic, and I didn't ever receive anything that was provable or mind-blowing, or that, so I don't know. And like the ones I went to, I think I would be terrified to go to one where they said they were summoning the dead. I wouldn't want to go there. But yeah, there were people that were like that. So I want to tell you about one guy. Okay. So this guy, really weird spiritualist, and this guy's still alive. This guy's still alive. So, let's see, what shall I call him? I guess I'll call him John. Let's call him John, and let's see, what, we'll say school teacher. Yeah, school teacher. Okay, so I'm switching around the details to obfuscate his identity here. So anyways, John, he's he was really close with me and my husband for a while, and he's been moved away for many years. And we hear about him a bit on Facebook and communicate with him a little bit, but not very much. So anyways, the stuff that he was always talking about was that he always saw dead spirits, like his whole life. They were all around, and he said that there were 3 different types, and he said there were the dead people who had gone to heaven. And he said that those people, even though you'd see them here, they weren't actually here. He said it's just like a hologram or like a reflection, that they're actually in heaven, and they just, they put a hologram here to talk to people that can see the hologram like him. And that he had various deceased relatives in heaven that would help him and guide him his whole life. Like, for example, like his dead grandmother standing by his side in school and teaching him math all day in math class and helping him. Stuff like that is the kind of stories he would tell. And he said but that was only one kind, and that was the one that he wanted to communicate with, was the heaven dead people. That were actually in heaven and just sort of sending a little image of themselves here to speak with him because God allowed it. And then there was another kind, he said, which was ghosts. So these were people that had died and probably not bound for heaven, and they were hanging around. And he said you never talk to them because they were always trouble. They were real bad. You got to avoid them. And then he said the third kind was demons, and sometimes they'd pretend to be dead people or ghosts, And he said he was always expelling the demons. So John was always expelling the demons, praying God to send them away, and he was always getting them out of his sight, never talks to them. And he says that he would see them like when he was little, before he understood the difference between these three different things. He said that he would see them attacking people and like trying to possess them and stuff. And that he realized they were evil, and that the people that they attached to would have bad luck or they would get sick. And so he was always big on expel the demons and never talk to them. So these were the kind of stories that John would tell. And he also said that the dead, the heaven dead that just sent their little image or hologram, he says that they would tell him stuff about the future and about what to do, and good advice and stuff, and that it always came true. And it was kind of like that woman in the flood. It was kind of like that. He believed he was 100% accurate, and of the things that he told me and my husband, he was not. It was probably around 50%. But he'd say, "Hey, this came from someone who's in heaven. This person, they're authorized by God. They know what they're talking about. This is definitely true." And it was only about 50% true. So I didn't know if I believed all his stories, because they sounded like pretty big stories, and he couldn't really prove any of it to us. So I don't know. But there was a weird thing about him, that he believed he could train other people to do what he had done from birth, to see the dead and all this stuff. And he had an apprentice. So he had an apprentice. This young man moved into his home, and that he was teaching. So he had an apprentice he was teaching, and then the apprentice eventually married his daughter. And but yeah, I don't know if I believe that any of the stuff that he said was true, but I think he believed it. I think he did. But he definitely felt like he was a Christian. And then there was another guy I should tell you about from my childhood. This guy, he was not a spiritualist. He was a hillbilly faith healing church guy. And even though the place itself was quite a drive, this guy lived in our town, for a while at least. And I think he was trying to start a church there, but he never did. I have no idea how he made his money, because he didn't seem to have a job or anything. He was just there. And so this guy, I really didn't like him. This guy, he turned out to be bad. I did not like him whatsoever. And so he was this particular guy, so not a spiritualist, and this is going back many years in my childhood. He was always bothering my mother, my biological mother, and some others in the church. He was always bothering them about the demon expulsion. So of the many different powers that the hillbilly faith healing church believed you could have, demon expulsion was one of the powers. So they didn't call it excommunication, because that's what Catholics do. They called it demon expulsion. So he was really big on that thing, and he believed that nearly everyone was demon possessed, like nearly everyone. And of course it was his job to expel all the demons. And it was really awful. And my mother would leave him alone with me. She'd send me off on these walks into the woods with him, and he'd spend the whole time trying to convince me that I was possessed with demons, because, of course, virtually everyone was. And I never was convinced, and he said the way his power worked is that he couldn't expel the demons until the person believed that they were possessed by demons. You had to believe it and you had to admit it, and then he could expel them. And he really wanted to expel the demons that were supposedly in me, and he was always trying to convince me, and I never, ever was convinced. I was like, nope, I'm a Christian, I believe in God, I believe in Jesus, I don't have demons. I think if I had them, I would know, or at least have some tiny hint of it, and this is just ridiculous. And he really got my mother to believe it, and not just with me, but with so many people. She thought just about everyone in town was possessed by demons. It was really sad, and it was part of the reason why I still have problems with my mother to this day. She will not let go of the belief that nearly everyone is demon possessed. And so I was really sad about that stuff. But this guy, he eventually he was convicted of terrible crimes involving his own children. And you can maybe guess what those crimes are. It's not something that I can say on YouTube. You can maybe guess. He was convicted of it, and afterwards I wondered if what was this demon expulsion ceremony? What was it? Was that what it was? If I'd agreed to demon expulsion ceremony, would that have happened to me? Nothing. It didn't happen to me, but would that have happened if I'd agreed to? I don't know, but he always seemed like a creepy guy, and I was really glad to get away from him. Oh man, and I just really still upset about him, and but I'm glad he got convicted. But anyways. So that's like some of my weird religion stories, but what I have for the most part in my belief system is mainstream Protestant belief. I've had a lot of contact with these, these little side churches, mostly the Hillbilly Faith Healing Church, but also some others that are related to it, and my beliefs are mostly the mainstream Protestant beliefs. I've had experiences with these other things, and they've influenced how I look at the world, but I'm not a member of any of them. I'm a member of a very mainstream, like, top 10 or so Protestant denomination. So, let's keep going and listen to Nexenor. We've been rambling forever, and we're only like half through. Let's go.
Says those are actually demons.
Yeah, no.
Next
he quoted Leviticus.
up is the Unification Church, or Moonies for short, because it was founded by this South Korean guy.
Oh yeah, I have lost some people to the Moonies, and my husband lost someone very dear to him to the Moonies. They are very bad people. They're very exploitative, very money draining. I do not like the Moonies. Okay, let's skip over this guy. Let's go. Okay, Unitarians. Oh yeah, I've had a bunch to do with these guys, and I do not like them. Have you seen that Simpsons clip where I think it's Rod and Todd are playing the video game where you you like laser people and they turn into Christians when you laser them. And if you wing them, if you don't quite hit them but you don't quite miss them, they turn into a Unitarian. Yeah, they turn into a Unitarian. But yeah, the Unitarian Church, I don't think it's really that bad, but they're very tiresome. So they're not the kind that's mean to their members, but their beliefs are just so wishy-washy and so all over the place. And they're like, well, God probably doesn't exist, and Jesus probably doesn't exist, and there probably isn't an afterlife, and there's probably, no such powers or anything like that. So they got a lot of that stuff going on that I just find tiresome and don't want to go there. But I got friends in there. And occasionally I will attend a service, but not very often in recent years. I probably haven't been there in 5 years. Okay, let's keep going.
We reject historic Christianity.
Bro, who are these guys? Unitarian Universalists? Are these just people that go to college campuses to try to convince Christians to have butt sex?
It's basically church for atheists.
It's exactly what I just said. Exactly what I just said.
They were formed in the 20th century as a union of the Unitarians, who reject the Trinity, and the Universalists, who reject hell. If you combine these two beliefs...
They just literally straight up reject everything. Oh my god.
Yeah, now there are actually atheist religions where they, pretend to be religious, but yeah, this is like as close as you can get to being an atheist and still be kind of nominally Christian. And the ones I know don't call themselves Unitarian Universalists. They've just shortened it to Unitarian. They just do that. Let's keep going.
God, bro. It's like we're a religion. We don't believe in God, though. It's like, what are we doing?
You get the idea that all religions worship the same God, and that leads to the idea that it doesn't...
quite literally fake, because it's... What are we doing? The second commandment. Do not serve false gods. Bro!
Really matter what you
This is tax fraud on wheels, okay?
believe about God. And that's what they believe to this day.
Yeah. See, that's what I generally hear them say. It's like, I guess they're not a cult because they don't try to be overly controlling and punish people for leaving and stuff like that, like cults do. But they really believe this. They're like, it doesn't matter what you believe. And not just it doesn't matter what you believe about God, but it doesn't matter what you believe about anything. So that's sort of like the general sentiment that I've gotten from them. Okay, let's keep going.
Unitarians are a community of people of many different religious beliefs.
Love is love. Yeah, right, dude. We all believe in the same God. Anyway, your God says that gay sex is an abomination, but our God, which is the same God, actually says that your God, which is the same God, is wrong. Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah, dude.
And they openly say that it doesn't really matter what you believe religiously, because what unites them isn't their beliefs about God, but their commitment to social justice. And that's because most of them don't see God as a being that actually exists, but they just ask, how can the idea of a loving God inspire us to love other people better?
This is the cringest shit in the world. It's like, oh yes, God is just whatever I feel like at that given moment. Right.
So the only difference
that's
between
pretty
most
much
of them
it.
and hardcore atheists
That's
is whether
what
or
they
not
think.
religion is useful for society. The Iglesia Ni
That's
Cristo
crazy.
is another apocalyptic anti-Trinitarian group, this time from the Philippines.
Right.
It would
Yeah, I don't know anything about these guys. Never met anyone in it as far as I know that I can remember. So let's just skip on. Okay, so, this stuff. Okay, yeah, this stuff, the Gnostics, yeah, I can tell you some stuff about those.
a world that you could perceive with heightened
All right.
consciousness.
All right.
Basically, it's a repackaged version of the ancient Gnostic heresy.
There it
He
is.
believed in angelic hierarchies and reincarnation, and those are also central to his philosophy.
All right.
Fun fact, Waldorf schools, which are basically nature hippie private schools, are based on anthroposophy. The Christian...
I didn't know that.
Community's weird because they're basically the only high church non-Trinitarians. They have priests, 7 sacraments, and a formal liturgy, but not the Nicene Creed.
Yeah, I never even...
Yeah. So about the Gnostics. So there was this job that I was interviewing for one time, and the guy had the what was it? It was that really famous Gnosticism book from I don't know, the 90s, I think, sitting on the shelf behind him, along with like maybe 100 other books or something. He had it sitting on the shelf, and I'd read it recently. And so during the job interview, even though you're not supposed to talk about religion in job interviews, I kind of brought it up. I was like, "Oh yeah, that's I read that. That made Gnosticism sound pretty reasonable. I liked the book, and it did. It made it sound reasonable. That book. It was really famous for a while, and then that was like I had made a big mistake by saying that, and he wanted to talk about Gnosticism so much, and he made it clear that he thought I was a fellow Gnostic just because I'd liked that book, and he was really determined to hire me for the job. And he wanted to give me a tour of the whole building in addition to the interview. And while we went around the building, he wanted to tell me all about the Gnosticism and how excited he was about it and how we were going to get along real good and all this stuff. And he was, super annoying and scared me off from that job. I did not take that job, so... but yeah, that's super unprofessional, and I shouldn't have started the unprofessionalness by bringing up religion in a job interview, but he definitely took it like 10 levels higher, and that was really an experience. Okay, so let's keep going.
Heard of these guys.
They also love blurry paintings for some reason. Maybe because they're influenced by the German philosopher Goethe, who was
because they were always high.
Obsessed with colors. They care a lot about nature and not raising your kids with electronics. But what they don't care about is historic Christianity. They think...
So why do they call them the Christian community?
Jesus was an ordinary man who received the Christ essence at his baptism, and that the Trinity didn't always exist.
Like, I'm not trying to be rude here, then why do you even call yourself Christians? Like, that's nice, but why do you call yourself Christians then? Then call yourself something else!
Christian science.
Like, this is quite literally not Christianity.
It's like a grape nut, which is neither a grape nor a nut, because Christian science is neither Christian nor scientific.
Oh, I love
One
that.
of their main...
Oh, yeah, Christian Science. I've known a bunch of these people. So there was this one woman who was kind of important in the Christian Science community where I was living at a particular time. And she, for some reason, she believed that I was a Christian Scientist, what they call it, and she would call me up out of the blue and ask me to come, and I did come. I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 times, but I told her, hey, this isn't my religion. You know, I don't believe this. I don't believe this. And it's true that the Christian hillbilly faith healing church, the little bitty one that I won't tell you exactly what it is. It's true that it was anti-doctor, but not as anti-doctor as these guys. But there were occasional relatives that, of the very few that were in it, that they did really stupid stuff with avoiding doctors. Like there was one that she broke her leg, and she would not get a cast on it, and she was having all kinds of relatives calling her, saying, you got to get a cast put on it, your leg's broken. She says, no, if I put a cast on it, if I see a doctor, that means that I'm not a Christian anymore. She says, God is going to heal it. And they'd be like, well, you at least not need to lay down and not walk on it. And she'd be like, no, I got to walk on it, or else I'm not really a Christian anymore. And it was bad. It was bad. The leg did not heal right. It was not good. But you know, you can go to the doctor, and the Christian Science is similar to that, but they're more extreme even. So let's go.
The main idea is that evil does not exist, and that means you shouldn't go to the doctor.
What? What are we doing, guys? What are we doing? People do this? People, like, actually do this?
They believe in extreme metaphysical idealism, where your mind creates reality. So if you're sick, you just need to think better.
Bro, what are we doing? Like, what are we...
Yeah, it's not just this one, but also some others that have this thing that they call prosperity gospel. So that's the general name for it. And where you're supposed to think yourself into a richness and good health and every other good thing that can happen. And they'd be like, well, if something bad's happened to you, it's because you're not thinking enough positive thoughts. So it's just you think good thoughts and you create the good reality. And I know I've seen it cause a lot of problems, so I'm really not for prosperity gospel types of thinking. But these guys are one of the Christian denominations that have that. And here we go.
What are we actually doing, guys? Like, what's going on? So what does this have to do with evil not being real?
They reject the Trinity because they don't see God as really personal at all.
So then, dog, again, maybe I'm retarded. Maybe I'm the retard. But I feel like if you call yourself Christian, but you don't believe in the Trinity, then you're not Christian. Again, I'm not a Christian, so I'm not trying to tell people what they are, and what they believe, but I feel like this is like a fundamental... It's like being a Muslim, but not believing that Muhammad was a prophet. Huh?
Just kind of a metaphysical principle of reality. Their beliefs were invented by this Boston lady, Mary Baker Eddy, and do I even need to say what sent...
Okay, look at those eyes. That's Sanpaku eyes, 3 whites. Look it up. That's Sanpaku eyes. They're 3 white eyes. That's a big meme on the internet, and it's older than, you know, the meme. Look that up.
Century it was. The Christadelphians were started in the 1800s, so that tells you all you need to know.
Yeah, alright, dude.
Okay, fine. They reject the Trinity, and they reject having any priests or pastors whatsoever. Last but not least...
So what do they do? Like, what do these people do?
World Mission Society Church of God.
Oh, okay.
I don't know about these guys.
For them, like Moonies or Mormons. You might recognize them as the people that are always coming to your college campuses to tell you about God the Mother. Because they think God is this woman in South Korea.
No.
Oh, wait. I think I've seen... what is that YouTuber? Stephanie Sue. I think I've seen her do some stuff. She's done various Korean, religious organizations that are supposedly Christian but have some weird stuff going on. I think I might have seen some, but yeah, don't know anything about these guys in person. Just stuff that I've like seen on YouTube or wherever.
Ooh, it's not real! Stop! Stop, bro. You see, this is why atheists are like... And my favorite thing is when atheists are like, even if you're right, that God is real, and God created the universe, then why should I pick your religion when there are so many religions? And it's like, one of them on the list is the World Mission Society Church of God. Alright? Doug, what are we doing?
Basic.
This is crazy.
This guy predicted Jesus would return in 1988, and when that didn't happen, he said it was
Something Wong. That was his name.
fulfilled spiritually, and then
That is the biggest cope of all time, bro. That is the biggest cope I've ever seen.
He died, but his followers still believed that he was God, the Father, Son, and Spirit.
What?
And that his wife, who's still alive, is God the Mother. So after you look at all these groups, the mainstream Christian denominations seem very similar to each other.
Yeah, I was like, whoa. Because originally when we were we did a deep dive on the mainstream Christian denominations, I was like, wow, these are interesting, these are different. But these don't seem Christian at all. Quite literally, none of these guys believe in like anything that has to do with Christianity at all, I would think. So yeah, anyway, that was wild. Yeah, these are heretical cults, I guess, or something. We have to do a Mormon deep dive, because that one seems super.
Well, these guys are definitely small, non-mainstream, and have weird stuff going on. But I think other than this one and maybe some of them that I don't know about, they're still not anywhere near as weird as it can get. You know, like Branch Dravidians in Waco, Texas, and all kinds of stuff. They're just like hundreds of them that are like 10 times as weird and 10 times as far from Christianity as any of these things on the screen right now. Nux is kind of surprised about how far these things are from the mainstream. But yeah, there's a lot deeper hole that you can look into, and maybe you don't want to, but there's a lot weirder stuff in there. Okay, let's keep going.
Interesting. It's a shame we didn't bring up Scientology, but I guess that doesn't even count as trying to be Christian.
Yeah, I think Scientology is pretty far away from even these guys. Scientology is way out there. Okay, let's keep going.
So yeah, anyway, that was fun. Thanks for the lore dive, everybody. See you in the next one. Bye.
Okay, so that is it. I've rambled for a long time. Maybe you understand a bit more about my own thing, and yeah, I'm mostly mainstream Protestant, but I've got some other stuff going on, and it's not a major part of my Christianity. It's just more like some of the details. But I'm mostly the mainstream Protestant stuff, and I've got a little bit of the other stuff, especially in my history. So some of it I've left behind, but I've had weird brushes with weird people, and yeah, like these guys. Yeah, those guys are weird, and I'm really tired of them. Okay, it was fun. Let's go.